Or maybe she was wanting that. For 40 years, it was delayed. They say justice delayed is justice denied. But what do we do when we do not know what justice is any longer? Dignity in life, dignity of life, dignity of a life, dignity of family. It's various, it's vast, it's so diverse. And here we are. I am from Rajendra Prasad Law Institute. It's kind of a small institute. This is the first time any of us from our institute is coming anywhere, and I am so happy to be here and thanking all of you to let me come here. There is an inherent value in everyone, an inherent value that you have the right to be fulfilled and happy simply by yourself, regardless of how much of a religious follower you are or what religious practice you are, even if you are morally compromised, how differently abled you are. You have dignity. The thing about it is that dignity is so vast. If it's so vast, there are complications that come. Let's just say now, a few years ago, it's not too much, there was a thing that there was a very adamant caste system. In that caste system, people of higher caste were discriminating against lower castes. And they were doing it in the name of familial, bloodline and religious dignity. Yeah. If dignity was an explicit right, at that point, it would have conflicted. And of course, our Supreme Courts and all our courts are extremely competent. Of course, they would have gotten a solution, but why faced with the complications? The thing about it is that dignity is too vast, but dignity is something that we should still strive for. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be, and it is never said that dignity has not been enforced by our courts. It is said that in Article 21 that dignity is something that is given to you with the right to life, right? Let's see from the perspective of our constitutional makers, what did these people do to take something which is so vast and then make something which is compelling out of it? What did I say? Right to life, right of a life, right to living, right to dignity of family. All of these things, right? They're complicated, but how do we implement them? We take the important parts of dignity, like, and then we make them into rights. They did that. Right to equality. If you are discriminated against, it is a breach of your dignity, right? All of these rights, they are enforcing of dignity, and this is the exact definition. All of the people who have spoken to me before, this is the exact definition of what it means to have dignity as a constitutional value. Being constitutionally a value means that all of the rights will be intertwined, and there are inherent advantages to give dignity as a constitutional value. First of all, it is that all the rights will be perfectly intertwined. There will not be a clash like the one I was saying before. Another thing is now, the same thing, I'm going to go back to the example that I gave a little bit ago, that there was a caste system, and that caste system was the dignity of one's family, religion, honor versus the dignity of one's life. This is something, the dignity of one's family and honor. Can I have some water, please? I was saying that dignity us samay, at that point, it was something different. Dignity is something which is very well aspected and impacted by our cultures, and culture can change by time. At that time, it was socially acceptable for being a racist because of caste. It was somewhat socially acceptable. It's still a bad thing that happens in some places. It was still socially acceptable. Now it is not. Dignity is something that changes with the context of time. Okay. And we cannot amend the constitution every single time. We get a new philosophical and radical idea of what dignity means to us. Right? And this is why dignity is much better as a constitutional value than a constitutional right. Now, do you guys know what will happen if you take implicit constitutional right, like except for implicit constitutional value that I told you the advantages of. There will be a lot of bumps, like right to equality. There's already pretty much a lot of provisions for right to equality. Will it get additional protection? Will it get no protection? What about right to speech, right to privacy, right to information? Will it create contradictions, bumps, a lot of things? These things will be very easily solvable, and I do not doubt the competence of our Supreme Court, but why bother with the complications? Why? Obviously, there is no proper article there, and I think the constitutional makers in a stroke of billions did that intentionally.
Question
Thank you very
answer?
much.